Legendary Dolly Parton is opening up again about her health after missing 2 award shows honoring her this week.
After letting her fans know she's been prioritizing her health.
I've had a few little health issues, and we're taking good care of them. I just kind of got wore down and wore out.
Dolly Parton's Tennessee estate, where glamour meets mountain tradition. There's a Tudor-style home tucked into the hills of Brentwood, Tennessee. You could drive right past it and never know who lives there. No security checkpoint, no iron gates with golden initials, just a winding driveway that disappears into 10 acres of quiet woodland. The roof is cedar shake, weathered by time and Tennessee rain. Ivy climbs the stucco walls like it's been there for centuries. And inside, if you were lucky enough to be invited, you'd smell something familiar. Cornbread, maybe bacon grease in a cast iron skillet. The kind of smells that don't belong to wealth. They belong to memory. This is where one of the most famous women in the world lives. A woman worth $650 million. A woman who has sold over 100 million records, written thousands of songs, starred in movies, and built a theme park empire. But when the cameras stop rolling and the stage lights dim, she comes home to this, a house that feels like a grandmother's hug. Inside, there are no crystal chandeliers, no marble statues. What you will find is warm wood paneling, vintage country furniture, walk-in closets packed with rhinestone gowns and wigs, and 60 years of love lived out loud in the small moments between a woman and a man who never wanted anyone's attention but hers. So, what kind of person builds an empire that spans continents, yet lives like the girl who grew up sleeping 3 to a bed in a one-room cabin? Today, we're stepping inside Dolly Parton's world, where glamour meets mountain tradition, where diamonds and dirt roads coexist, and where the truest form of luxury isn't what you can buy, it's who you become when nobody's watching. The mountains that made her. To understand why Dolly lives the way she does, you have to go back to where it all began. Locust Ridge, Tennessee, a place so remote that even the mail carrier got lost sometimes. It was 1946, and the Great Smoky Mountains were still wild. Dolly Rebecca Parton was born on January 19th in a one-room cabin with no electricity, no running water, and a dirt floor that her mother swept clean every morning. There was no hospital, no nurse, just her mother, Avi Lee, gritting through the pain while her father, Robert Lee, paced outside praying. The doctor who delivered Dolly was paid with a bag of cornmeal. That's all they had. Dolly was the 4th of 12 children, 12 mouths to feed, 12 bodies to clothe, 12 dreams trying to survive on hope and hand-me-downs. Her father couldn't read a single word, not a street sign, not a Bible verse, not even his own name, but Dolly always said he could read people better than anyone she ever met. He worked a small tobacco farm and picked up construction jobs when the weather allowed. Her mother held the family together with gospel songs and cornmeal mush. She braided 12 heads of hair before sunrise. She sewed dresses from flour sacks and told stories that made poverty feel like an adventure instead of a sentence. And there was music, always music. Ballads passed down from Welsh and Irish ancestors echoed through the mountain hollers. Gospel harmonies filled the tiny Pentecostal church every Sunday. Dolly's grandfather was a preacher, and he let her sing in front of the congregation when she was only 6 years old. That was the first time she felt it, the power of a voice. By 7, she was strumming a homemade guitar. By 8, her uncle bought her a real one, and everything changed. Music wasn't just something she loved, it was the way out, the only way out. She wrote her first song at 5 years old about her corncob doll, the only toy she had. That doll didn't have a fancy dress, but in Dolly's hands, it was royalty. And that's what music did for her. It turned poverty into poetry, pain into possibility. The day after she graduated high school, Dolly packed everything she owned into a cardboard suitcase. She was 18 years old, with hair teased high and dreams even higher. Her daddy drove her to the bus station. She hugged him, climbed on that Greyhound bus, and rode it all the way to Nashville. She was terrified, excited, broke, but she wasn't lost. Because the mountains had already taught her everything she needed to know. How to work, how to dream, how to survive. and most importantly, how to never ever forget where you came from. The Sanctuary in Brentwood. Decades later, after the #1 hits, and the movie rolls and the stadiums packed with screaming fans, Dolly Parton could have lived anywhere. But in the early 1990s, she chose a quiet Tudor home in Brentwood, Tennessee. She paid around $400,000 for it. For context, that's what some celebrities spend on a single car. The house sits on just over 10 acres of wooded land. It has 4,795 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 3 full bathrooms, a great room with exposed wooden beams, and a kitchen that smells like every Sunday dinner you've ever loved. This isn't a house designed to impress visitors. It's designed for living. The cedar shake roof, the stucco facade wrapped in climbing vines. It looks like something out of an English countryside painting, hidden among Tennessee trees, sheltered from the noise of fame. Inside, the great room is the heart of the home. Warm wood paneling lines the walls. Vintage country furniture fills the space. A well-worn sofa faces a stone fireplace. Books are stacked in corners, spines cracked from being read more than once. Family photos are taped to the refrigerator door with magnets shaped like butterflies. The kitchen is pure Dolly. Copper pots hang above the stove. A cast-iron skillet, seasoned for decades, rests on the burner. She still cooks the way her mama did, by feel, not by recipe. A pinch of this, a handful of that, and always enough to feed an army in case someone stops by hungry. There's a breakfast nook where she drinks her morning coffee from a chipped mug that's been with her for years. The kind of mug that holds memories, not just liquid. Upstairs, the master suite is simple but personal. The bed is piled high with quilts, some handmade by relatives who've long since passed. A walk-in closet is packed with stage costumes, sequins, rhinestones, feathers, gowns in every color, and wigs. So many wigs, each one a version of the Dolly the world knows. But next to all that glitter sits a rocking chair, and a Bible, and reading glasses on a nightstand, because this is where the performer becomes just Dolly, the girl from the mountains, the woman who prays before bed and writes songs by candlelight. Down the hall, she converted a bedroom into a writing room. That's where the magic happens, where she scribbles lyrics on napkins, legal pads, whatever's close. Where she keeps sharpened pencils by the window and stares out toward the hills, listening for melodies that only she can hear. Dolly once said, "This place isn't fancy, but it's full of memories. That's what makes it worth everything." Because this wasn't the biggest house she ever owned, but it was the truest, the one where she could be herself, where glamour and simplicity lived side by side. Love without the spotlight. There are no children's rooms in this house. Dolly and Carl never had kids of their own, though not for lack of love, but their home was never empty. Nieces and nephews ran through those halls. Young artists she mentored sat at that kitchen table. But the heartbeat of this home was always Carl Dean. She met him outside the wishy-washy laundromat in Nashville on her very first day in town. She was 18, fresh off the bus. He was 21, leaning against a white Chevy pickup truck. He told her straight up that he was going to marry her someday. She laughed. But Carl Dean wasn't like anyone else. He didn't care about her dreams of stardom. He just wanted her, the real her. 2 years later, on May 30th, 1966, they got married in a quiet ceremony in Ringgold, Georgia. Just Dolly, Carl, her mama, and the preacher. No photographers, no press, no fuss. And for the next 60 years, that's exactly how they lived. Carl only saw Dolly perform live once. One time in nearly 60 years of marriage. He wasn't interested in the fame, the applause, the flashing lights. He loved Dolly, not Dolly Parton the brand. And she loved him for that. Their life together was beautifully ordinary. He ran an asphalt paving business. She toured the world. But when she came home, the world stopped. They'd sit on the porch together, watch the sun set over Tennessee, share stories, exist in a kind of peace that fame can never touch. This house was their sanctuary, where he loved his quiet and she loved her noise, and somehow it all worked. They weren't a fairy tale couple, they were a real one. With 60 years of choosing each other over and over again. When Carl passed away in 2025, it wasn't just Dolly who mourned. It was the house itself. Every creaky floorboard, every faded photograph, the silence became heavier. She didn't move, she stayed, with the memories, with the echoes, with a love story that never needed headlines to prove it was real. Because the greatest love stories aren't the ones shouted from rooftops, they're the ones whispered across kitchen tables. The kingdom built for her people. Now, you might be wondering, if Dolly lives so simply, where does all that sparkle go? The answer is about 2 hours east of Brentwood, at the base of the Great Smoky Mountains, a place called Dollywood. She could have built it anywhere, Las Vegas, Orlando, Los Angeles, but Dolly didn't want a glitzy theme park. She wanted to build something for the people who raised her, for the mountains that made her, for the culture that was disappearing. So, in 1986, she opened Dollywood in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. 150 acres of roller coasters, live music, southern food, museums, and craft demonstrations. Over 3 million visitors walk through those gates every year. But to Dolly, it was never about ticket sales. It was about preservation. Walk through Dollywood and you'll see it. Blacksmith shops where artisans hammer hot iron, glass blowers shaping molten beauty, wood carvers creating art with nothing but a knife and steady hands. Southern gospel groups singing 4-part harmonies that'll raise the hair on your arms. Butterfly motifs are carved everywhere, because to Dolly, butterflies represent transformation, beauty born from struggle, wings earned through patience. There's a museum on site called Chasing Rainbows. Inside are her rhinestone outfits, handwritten lyrics, awards, even her high school diploma. But tucked between the glamour are stories of struggle, of a girl who walked barefoot because shoes were a luxury. Dollywood is the largest employer in Sevier County, and in 2021, Dolly launched Grow You. It pays 100% of college tuition for every Dollywood employee, because education opens doors. Her father never learned to read, and it haunted her. She wasn't going to let another generation go without that chance. Dollywood preserves what makes Appalachia unique: the music, the crafts, the food, the values. And it proves that you can take the girl out of the mountains, but you'll never take the mountains out of the girl. Wheels of memory. Let's talk about her cars, because even the way Dolly moves through the world tells you something about her character. Her first real ride was a red Ford Thunderbird, not new, not fancy. But when she bought it with early paychecks, it was freedom on 4 wheels, proof that she'd made it out. That she could drive back to the mountains, not as the poor girl who left, but as the woman who was becoming something. Years later, she bought a classic Cadillac DeVille, big, bold, southern. It became her signature ride for public events around Nashville. Fans would spot her waving through the windows, hair teased high, smile brighter than chrome. Her favorite was a vintage Rolls-Royce, not because it screamed wealth, but because it whispered elegance. She used it sparingly, only for special moments. Anniversaries with Carl, award shows where she wanted to remind the world that country could be classy. Dolly once joked, "I don't care what I drive, as long as I've got gas, great heels, and a great story to tell." For someone with a $650 million empire, her car collection is modest, intentional. Each vehicle represents a version of herself, the dreamer escaping the hollow, the star waving to her people, the queen of country, timeless and unforgettable. The gift that keeps giving. She could have stopped at entertaining, but Dolly has always known that a voice like hers wasn't just meant to be heard, it was meant to help. It started with one haunting question. What would my daddy's life have been like if he could read? That question led to the Imagination Library in 1995. It began in Sevier County. The goal was simple: get books into the hands of children who might not otherwise have them. It started with 1,000 kids. Today, the Imagination Library has gifted over 220 million books to children worldwide. Every child enrolled, from birth to age 5, receives a free book delivered to their home every month. Dolly says it best: If you can read, you can dream. And if you can dream, you can do anything. But literacy was just the beginning. In November 2016, wildfires tore through the Smoky Mountains, Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, her backyard. Homes burned, families were displaced. Dolly didn't wait. Within days, she launched the My People Fund and pledged $1,000 per month for 6 months to every family who lost their home. Then, she raised it. In total, more than $9 million in direct relief. When reporters asked why she gave so much, she said, "Because they're my people. You don't turn your back on your own." In 2020, during COVID-19, Dolly quietly donated $1 million to Vanderbilt University Medical Center. That money helped fund research that contributed to the Moderna vaccine. She didn't hold a press conference, just wrote the check and got out of the way. All of this from a woman who grew up sleeping 3 to a bed, sharing biscuits, patching shoes with newspaper. She never forgot where she came from, never turned her back, never let the sparkle outshine the soul. Living like Dolly. So, what's the secret? How does someone rise from a dirt floor to a global empire and keep their humanity intact? The answer lives in that Brentwood home, in the choices, in the rituals, in the quiet mornings that start with prayer, in the cornbread and greens still made on Sundays, in her mother's Bible kept close on the nightstand. Dolly Parton's life isn't built on grand gestures. It's built on small rituals done with great love. It's about staying connected to a one-room cabin even when you can afford a palace. It's about loving one man for 60 years. It's about remembering that wealth without generosity is just hoarding. Her Tennessee estate isn't the biggest. Her car collection isn't the flashiest. But her life is soaked in meaning. A life that sparkles but doesn't shout. A heart that gives without keeping score. A legacy that doesn't need a microphone to be heard. Dolly Parton didn't build her legacy from money, though she earned plenty. She didn't build it from fame, though the whole world knows her name. She didn't even build it from talent alone, though she had more than most could dream of. She built it from truth, from staying rooted while reaching for the stars, from writing songs that didn't just entertain but healed, from living a life that proved you could be strong and soft, rich and generous, famous and faithful, all at the same time. She gave us Jolene. She gave us 9 to 5. She gave us I Will Always Love You. But more than that, she gave us an example, proof that where you come from doesn't have to define where you go, that you can wear rhinestones and still have a heart of gold. Her Tennessee estate stands as quiet proof. No marble floors, no golden statues, just warm wood, old photographs, and 60 years of love lived in the margins of fame. It's a home that chose meaning over magnitude, privacy over performance, and in doing so, it became the most glamorous thing she ever built. Because in the end, Dolly Parton's most unforgettable creation wasn't a song, it wasn't a theme park, it wasn't a brand, it was herself, honest, humble, radiant. So the next time you hear her voice on the radio, in a movie, in the wind whispering through Appalachian trees, take a moment. Ask yourself what it would mean to live like Dolly, to dream bigger, to give more, to love deeper, to become more. Because sometimes, the brightest stars aren't found in Hollywood. They're born in one-room cabins, raised on hope and cornmeal, and built entirely, beautifully, out of heart.